All right, so obviously we're talking the legal tech report, which just right off, if somebody wants to see it, Clio.com/LTR.
That's it.
Read it. I read it immediately upon I got a copy a little bit ahead of time. Read it immediately upon getting it, and it was thorough.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to let you talk about it, but from my perspective, there was a specific line, you know, in conclusions that you can draw from it. It has very specific things that it talks about. But
I'm
describing about me. Yeah, what about?
I'm describing our latest legal trends report as the most integrated ever. We have, in addition to our year-over-year metrics, 4 kind of chapters. The prevalence of AI and its potentially negative impact on hourly billing.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. What we're seeing in terms of flat fees in the use of Clio and how it's growing over time, both in frequency and in billed amount. Law firm budgets.
Okay.
And what is kind of the average law firm spending in terms of expenses and overhead. And then lastly, we take a look at marketing and client onboarding and have firms improved over time with those. And what I think is interesting is they all tie together.
Right.
None of them exist in a vacuum in this year's report.
I think that's exactly what I drew out of this is like the driver behind this is the AI, is the effect of AI. But so how is, from the report, how is AI kind of going to change law or going to affect us? What are we thinking here?
So there are 2 points in the AI chapter that I think most people need to realize. Is one, AI use in law firms is rapidly much more widely adopted than we anticipated.
Oh, it's the curve is.
Last year we reported 1 out of 5 using AI.
Yeah.
This year 4 out of 5. The second point from the AI chapter is that if you rely on hourly billing, this shift to AI productivity is going to reduce the number of hours you're recording.
Right.
And that seems like a good thing until you realize that a lot of law firms then just won't be sustainable from loss of revenue.
Right, and I think that's an idea that is counterintuitive for us sometimes, that what that says is I don't want to bring AI into my practice because I'm going to do things so quickly that I can't bill for now.
Yeah.
You know, I can't bill for the 2 hours of time that it would have taken me when it takes me 20 minutes now. And so what I really like about the chapter in the AI chapter is that y'all aren't going out and drawing like massive conclusions as much as like putting the facts there, which is we are adopting AI.
Yep.
That is going to speed up how quickly we do work. It's going to speed up how quickly we do billable work.
Yeah.
And so we're either going to have to do 2 things, right? We're either going to have to increase, you know, our billable hour.
Yep.
Or we're going to have to change how we do the, you know, our billable time.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. There's one more that you can add to that. We got to get more business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even if you change your billable hour, the velocity of business coming through has to increase.
Yeah.
Which, velocity of business increasing, fantastic. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you're charging, because we're helping more people.
Yeah.
So that's great, but lawyers are hesitant to raise their hours.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're necessarily saying the billable hour is dead, but it's going to be hard.
I think we've hit like peak billable hour, right?
I think potentially,
and we're going to start to see it decrease. So that's why we did the chapter on flat fees.
Yes.
Is because now is the time where we're hitting this new level of productivity and efficiency in legal via generative AI. And if we only value the outputs of a lawyer based on the time they devote to it, that is a misapplication of the idea of value.
Right.
Nobody comes to a lawyer because they want a lawyer to rack up tons of hours. They want a lawyer's help.
Right.
That's what they're paying for. And if we can get them that help in less time, it's still valuable and it's still something you can sell. And flat fees is how you do that. We see that 71% of clients prefer flat fees over any other billing method.
Yeah.
We see that clients who are hiring lawyers are gravitating towards flat fees, even though fewer law firms offer them, right? And when we ask law firms, like, how many of you are offering hourly billing? They're like 71%. We're like, It's like exactly the opposite of what clients are telling you.
Doesn't appear to be what the market wants.
Yeah. And so I think we're going to see a greater use of flat fees and a greater use of hybrid billing, where part of this work is going to be flat fee, and then if we go above what's needed to get the outcome that we would normally be producing, that switches to hourly.
Okay, and I can see that. I can see that being okay, that we're doing that very quickly.
Yeah.
Because we've already got the client there. But if we do flat fee, if we do hourly and we dress it up like flat fee,
you're not the first person to bring this up at this conference.
That can't be the way forward, right?
So I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
Right? We have to have a starting point.
Yeah.
Right? And absent really good inputs on overhead and cost per matter, right? We're going to have to experiment before we really figure out what this is. And one of the starting points is going to be, what did I earn doing this hourly beforehand? Now, that doesn't mean you're charging for the same number of hours. That would be unethical. Right. But it's a starting point for valuation. And then what I think we're going to see is some competition, right? Oh, you're charging $10,000. Well, I can actually get this done and still make a profit at $9,000 because I've invested in generative AI. I've trained my tools on how to do this type of work in particular. I've spent time in document automation to make my output go faster, right? So I can get this done faster and with less overhead. So I'll charge $9,000, and now the price is starting to go down, and that's independent of hourly billing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the starting point, it's probably going to be based around hourly billing, and then we'll see efficiency, productivity, and competition start to adjust those prices downward.
Well, so let's talk about what sorts of things y'all found in this report that are capable of being automated, that are kind of ripe for, you guys put it a different way, but ripe for AI coming in and dealing with.
Yeah. Honestly, there was nothing that is specialized within the legal industry that cannot be automated to some degree.
Okay.
Right? It's just the degree of automation.
Right.
So we looked at over 7 million time entries that were anonymized and aggregated. So no client information, no law firm information, just a time entry.
Right.
And we assigned those against the ONET classifications of work activities specific to lawyers, paralegals, and legal secretaries.
Okay.
Right? And what we found is that all of them had some degree of automation potential. Right? Preparing legal documents, for example, has an 80% degree of potential AI automation.
Yeah, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, right? If I'm going to be like just creating 10 pages of something, AI can create 10 pages really quick.
Right.
That 20% then is making sure it's the right 10 pages.
Which 20% is important.
It's important, right? And
Right.
valuable.
Right.
Right? And so that might be where the hourly fee continues. But anything that was specific to a legal task, a legal work activity, automatable. It's just a question of how much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what type of tasks were y'all finding were automatable?
Yeah, there were three high-level work activity categories that represent 66% of all time entries.
Okay.
So, and they sound really generic because they're the high level. There's getting information, analyzing information, documenting and reporting information.
Okay.
Right, and those can be broken down into what ONET calls detailed work activities.
Okay.
Right, and so documenting information might be preparing legal documents. Right, analyzing information might be reviewing incoming client communications to see if there's a legitimate lawsuit.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's and it might also include trial prep. Right, like how am I going to use this in a trial, right? So you can get down to things that sound like very much like a time entry.
Yeah.
And that was when I made the connection that we could use this to look at some of these broad claims about AI and really figure out their impact. So, but it's those three categories: getting information, analyzing information, documenting and reporting information. 66% of all time entries.
So that, I mean, I think that was one of the striking things to me in the report is your law office cannot be untouched by this. There's no way that you don't get information, analyze information, or
document
information.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what being a lawyer is in many instances, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so if I keep saying that you can't retire your way out of this. Like AI is going to touch your office before you can retire. It doesn't matter how quickly you can retire. And so if that's the case, how does the Legal Trends Report kind of give us an idea of like how we can prepare for that?
So I don't think there's any one way to prepare for it.
Okay.
And we've chatted about this kind of offline as well. I mean, there are certain things, there are different approaches depending upon your practice, your clients, your region, right?
Yeah.
On how you can handle any of these things. I do think hybrid billing is probably the easiest way to adapt to this.
Okay.
Right? And that's the idea of what type of work do I dislike, is repetitive, and I can just hand off, right, with a high degree of trust to be automated to that 80%, right? For me, I actually really enjoy reviewing writing, but I hate doing the writing. I will stare at a blank page for hours rather than actually write.
Yeah.
And so for me, Gen AI gets rid of that blank page. And then all those ideas that I knew I wanted to get on the paper, I can look at the Gen AI version and be like, oh, this is garbage. I need to fix this, this, and this. And that I'm motivated to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an example of that. Find something you hate, figure out how much you can automate it, and then hybrid bill it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk through this idea of I can still bill hourly.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
And so I can still bill hourly. Let's just kind of take some numbers. I bill at $200 an hour, and now artificial intelligence being worked into my office, I now bill, let's even say 30%. I now have the billing hours. I have 30% the billing hours that I have.
That you used to have before.
That I used to have before. So I need to increase my rate by at least kind of something comparable to that.
Yeah.
So let's just, and I'm not even doing the math in my head, let's just say that I'm increasing my rate to $500 an hour.
Okay.
But even then, I still am not going to make the $500. I'm still not going to make that money because I'm going to be getting through these things faster.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be, if I'm getting through them faster, I have more time to do other stuff.
Everybody says this about AI. It's going to free you up to do the work that matters.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do a lot of the work that matters, to be perfectly honest, right? That's what we're seeing in these time entries that we reviewed, is it's going to write that first draft of a motion, right? It's going to create that first draft of a will. It's going to suggest an email reply when somebody writes an unreasonable demand letter to your client, right? Some blank hole is signing your name to these letters, right? Yeah, right? I want AI to tell me to write that.
I want that one, yes.
Yeah, so yeah, it's going to be doing the work that matters.
Yeah.
So what is it really freeing you up to do? I think it's to get more work.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer.
Well, so how do we do that though? I keep looking at this and going, well, yeah, I could go get more work, but I was hustling my ass off to get this work.
Yeah. So this is where two other parts of the LTR come together.
Okay.
For the second year in a row, we've published what we call the Legal Productivity Index, where we look at certain productivity measurements of law firms over time. And it's been since 2016 on is the data we're publishing.
Okay.
The first two look at timekeepers. How many matters do they work on? How many hours do they bill? The second are at firm levels.
Okay.
All right. Of those matters that have been worked on and hours that have been billed, how much is the firm putting on a bill, and how much are they collecting from it?
Okay.
They're all going up, right? Which means that lawyers are busy. Paralegals are busy. They're recording time.
Yeah.
They have work. So that's factor one.
Okay.
Factor two is they're horrible about getting work. And it's not that people aren't calling. I know this because we called 500 law firms and offered them business.
So what was the result of that?
Oh my gosh. So this is the second time we've done this research. We call it secret shopping.
Okay.
Right? And what we did is we randomly selected 500 law firms and empowered a private company of secret shoppers to do highly targeted prospecting as a potential client.
Okay.
Right? So you're a family, you've been given a family law firm. Here is a targeted script of things that a potential client would want to learn from a family law lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we sent them out and we asked them to contact these firms via email, via phone, via chatbot, and online intake form. What was available, right?
Yeah.
And what we found is that 73% of these secret shoppers just would not recommend the law firm they reached out to.
73%.
73% of the ones that were emailed, 67% of the law firms didn't even bother to respond.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's our kind of conclusion that we draw from this? What do we glean?
We need to free lawyers up to answer their phones. We need to free lawyers up to schedule time with prospective clients. We need to, if they're going to have a reduction in the work that matters, right? The work that matters is getting more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point. So, okay. I've increased my hourly billing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to increase my productivity, and I'm trying to get more work. It seems like there's a different way. There's a different path that you suggested as well.
Yeah, which is flat fees, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I do want to point out though, getting more work, the bar is so low compared to what we found in our secret shopping, right?
I mean, that's a good point. Do I think I could get over being, in that 75%?
Yeah. And
yeah.
it was simple things like, tell us if you've handled this type of case before, right?
Okay.
9% of firms that we talked to actually gave that answer.
So
you know what type of cases you handle, right? You could just say yes or no.
Yes or no.
Yeah, that was all we were looking for.
I think that's the fascinating thing about this secret shopper is that from the trends report, the conclusion wasn't they were able to help us.
Yeah.
The conclusion was we would or wouldn't recommend them to somebody else. So that's even bigger than you would or wouldn't have gotten one person.
Yeah.
This is a kind of like ripple in the lake.
Yeah,
that goes
you
out.
were like really kind of painting your own firm into a corner by not being responsive. Like even if the response is, you know what, we messed up, you don't handle that type of case that we were prospecting on. No, I'm sorry, I don't handle that type of case, but here are some good resources to turn to, right?
Yeah.
So here's my state's legal referral service, right?
Yep.
And that's a templated email. That's something ChatGPT could write in less than a minute.
So you're telling me that we could use AI.
We could use AI to build a better word of mouth about our law firm, right? Yeah, and even that's taking less time now.
But I think one of the things that you highlighted here, and I believe you highlighted in the trends report, is that yes, people want us to use AI, is what it seems like.
Yes.
But they also don't want to necessarily talk to AI. They want to talk to the attorney.
So that's interesting. Yeah, we asked two different questions. The first was about, do you want a law firm that uses AI? Like yes, no, or it doesn't matter. Those were the outcomes. 42% of clients said, yeah, I want a law firm with AI. When you add in the ones that say, it doesn't matter, that's actually 70% of clients said AI is fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So only 30% of clients out there are like, I might have an issue. I think that means you just tell people you use AI. I don't think it's something you have to hide anymore.
Right.
And even when we looked at like a generational breakdown, 59% of boomers were saying, yeah, AI, I'm fine with it. Yeah. And every younger generation, more and more accepting of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the interesting things about the report is the just massively rapid adoption.
Exactly, and favorability of it being adopted by clients.
Right.
So the second thing you asked about was chatbots, and we asked about chatbots. Interestingly, in our secret shopper study, chatbots came in second as the best experience in reaching out to a law firm. They had their weaknesses. They
Uh-huh.
couldn't answer every question. Sometimes they just didn't have information to give,
Yeah.
right? But they came in second. Here's what our survey was telling us of what clients want when shopping for a law firm and encountering a chatbot. 51% of them said it's actually a really good starting place to learn about that law firm.
Okay.
Yeah. But 61% of them also said, my intention in using this chatbot is to be able to talk to a lawyer. I want to chat with a chatbot in order to talk to a lawyer. And so I think if you're going to be using a chatbot on your law firm's website, you want to make sure it does two things. One, it's able to answer questions that weed out or channel in
Right.
the right client.
Right.
Right? And so if somebody asks, I'm looking for a divorce lawyer, do you handle that? It should be able to say yes or no.
Yeah, you would think it would. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or it's prompting. Hi, I'm the chatbot for this law firm. These are the 3 things we do. Are you looking for help with any one of those?
Right.
That's a great use of a chatbot. The second thing they should do is the end of the chat should lead to some type of action that will eventually connect the lawyer and the prospective client. And I don't mean it's, yeah, you should call us. It's
Right.
instead,
Right.
I found time that the lawyers set aside on their calendar to meet with potential clients. Would you like me to schedule that for you? Great, it's Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Right.
I'll send you an email and a text reminder. Is that okay? Yes or no? Right. The client will walk away from the chats knowing when and where and how they're going to talk to a lawyer.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So let's talk about the legal trends report itself.
Okay.
Kind of efficacy.
Okay.
Of like, how do we put that together? I know you guys have been doing the legal trends report for a long time.
This is our ninth annual release.
I remember seeing it 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And it is something that is quoted. It is something that when it comes out, people go to and point and say, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
How are you guys approaching kind of gathering this data and making sure that you're getting good results out of this?
Oh, we actually have an entire team of people that work on this year-round now. In the beginning, it was some of the longest-running employees in Clio, Jack, myself, oddly enough, Jack's brother,
Okay.
who has a master's in statistics, who we would just be like, let's figure out like how we can use the Clio usage data.
Right. Aggregated usage data.
To see how lawyers are using Clio.
Okay.
And it started off with, like, are we building Clio the right way?
Okay.
And then we started noticing trends, which is why we call it
The
the Legal
trends
Trends Report. Yeah. But what makes this report unique is we have tens of thousands of law firms who are all contributing this anonymized, aggregated usage data.
Yeah.
That gives us a live view of what these lawyers are doing, and we're able to kind of differentiate certain things because of that.
Okay.
Right? So, unfortunately, oftentimes that raises more questions than answers. They're like, well, that's backwards than what we were expecting. So we do pair it with surveys of both legal professionals and consumers of legal services.
Okay.
Clients, potential clients, past clients. Because sometimes we need that extra context. So, for example, we looked at how the use of online payments is like impacting law firms' finances.
Okay.
Because it's a feature that we've launched, people are using it. Is it a good feature? And one of the things we found is that bills that are going directly to online payments, like I'm going to share this via an email, it's going to have a click here to pay link, right? Those get paid twice as fast, just twice as fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's feature number one. Now here are all the different ways you can use it, right? And it might be, I have an automated reminder that if the bill's late, hey, here's another email, click here to pay now. Or it might be, I'm going to set up a payment plan because my client can't pay it all at once. Or it might be, my client has given me written permission to store their payment information and I can just run the payment. Yeah. Lots of different ways to use that basic application of online payments. And what we found is it increased both the realization rate the amount of recorded billable time that lawyers just went ahead and billed.
Okay. Yeah.
And it increased the collection rate. So using these features almost universally raised both the amount of billed and the amount the clients were paying, because it was just easy and clear, and it gave the law firms a lot of certainty. Like if I know Clio's going to go and send that email if the bill's late, I'm not going to write myself down. Clio will chase it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one area, and this is, we always have mysteries,
Yeah.
where it didn't play out was payment plans.
Okay.
For some reason, realization rate was high, but collection rate was negative when compared to firms that weren't using payment plans.
Okay.
So there was just a negative correlation.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, what's going on here? And as we dug in, we realized that these firms were actually making a ton more revenue. We saw on average firms that were using payment plans 43% more revenue on matters than firms that weren't. 70% more revenue than for solo law firms. But their collection rate when we did this comparison was just lower.
Mm-hmm.
And then we smacked ourselves in the head, and it's because we don't close bills, an invoice down, until the payment plan is finished. And so normally, you send out like a $1,000 bill, somebody pays you $1,000, the bill is marked closed.
Mm-hmm.
You send somebody a $5,000 bill with $1,000 a month payment, that bill remains open.
Fully, yeah.
Yeah, and so we have this usage data that gives us insight into the practice of law that has never existed before.
Mm-hmm.
But it leads to more questions and more investigation. But the neat thing is now we're able to turn to law firms and say, hey, here's how using this feature is going to positively impact your firm.
Yeah.
Or if you're using it this way, you might see this different impact. And you can really start to fine tune your law firm like an engine
Mm-hmm.
because of how we produce the legal trends report.
Okay.